Why did experts turn pale when they zoomed into this portrait of two friends from 1888? The digital archive room at the Charleston Heritage Museum felt unnaturally quiet on that October afternoon. Dr. Emma Torres sat before three monitors, methodically scanning 19th century photographs from recently acquired estate collections. Rain streaked the windows behind her, blurring the view of the historic district outside. She had processed 47 images that day when she reached a portrait labeled simply Two Women, Charleston Residence, 1888. The photograph showed an elegant parlor with ornate wallpaper and heavy curtains framing a window. Two young women sat side by side on an upholstered settee, both wearing fashionable dresses of the late 1880s, high collars, fitted bodices, elaborate sleeves. The woman on the left appeared to be in her early 20s, white, with light hair swept up in the Gibson girl style that would soon dominate the next decade. Her dress was darker, possibly deep blue or burgundy, with delicate lace at the collar. She sat with perfect posture, hands folded in her lap, her expression serene and confident. The woman on the right was black, approximately the same age, wearing a lighter colored dress, perhaps gray or pale green, equally well made and fashionable. Her hair was styled similarly, pulled back elegantly. She sat with her hands resting on her lap, but her posture seemed slightly more rigid, her smile more restrained. Emma began the high-resolution scan, noting the exceptional clarity of the original album in print. Whoever had taken this photograph had been skilled. The exposure was perfect, the focus sharp, the composition balanced. As the digital image loaded, she could see remarkable detail. The texture of the wallpaper, the reflection in a mirror barely visible in the background, the intricate beading on both dresses. She zoomed in systematically, examining faces first. Both women looked directly at the camera with the intense, unblinking gaze common in photographs requiring long exposures. Then she moved to their clothing, noting the quality and style. These were not working dresses, but formal attire, suggesting this was a special occasion. When Emma zoomed in on the black woman's hands, folded gracefully in her lap, her breath stopped. There, on the left wrist, partially hidden by the sleeve but visible in the high-resolution scan, was a circular scar, unmistakable in its shape and origin. Emma had seen similar marks in photographs of formerly enslaved people. She knew exactly what caused scars like that. Emma sat motionless, staring at the magnified image on her screen. The scar was perhaps an inch wide, a band of lighter tissue circling the wrist like a bracelet. The edges were distinct, the kind of permanent marking left by metal restraints worn over time. She had cataloged photographs from plantation records before, had seen documentation of the brutalities of slavery, but those images were always clearly labeled, contextualized, understood. This photograph was different. It showed two women sitting together in obvious comfort and equality, dressed similarly, posed as companions or even friends. Yet one bore the physical evidence of bondage. Emma checked the acquisition records. The photograph had come from the estate of Mrs. Virginia Ashford, who had died 6 months earlier at age 93. The estate donation included several boxes of family photographs, documents, and personal papers dating back to the 1780s. This particular image had been in an album labeled Family Portraits, 1880 on 1900. The notation listed no names, no identification of the subjects or the photographer, just a date, 1888. Emma calculated quickly. The 13th Amendment abolishing slavery had been ratified in December 1865. This photograph was taken 23 years after emancipation. The woman in the image would have been born around 1863 or 1864, possibly during the final years of the Civil War, possibly into slavery, possibly born free depending on where and when exactly. But that scar told a different story. Those marks didn't form from a single incident. They developed over time, from iron shackles or manacles worn repeatedly. Even if this woman had been born free, she had been restrained at some point in her life. Emma zoomed out to look at both women again. Their proximity on the settee, the similar quality of their clothing, the domestic setting, everything suggested intimacy, familiarity, perhaps even affection. This wasn't a photograph of mistress and servant posed formally with clear hierarchical distance. They sat close together, almost touching. What was the relationship between these two women? Why were they photographed together in this way? And why had no one, in 136 years, apparently noticed or questioned the scar visible on one woman's wrist? Emma saved multiple high-resolution captures of the image and began drafting an email to Dr. Marcus Webb, a colleague who specialized in post-Civil War African-American history in the South. She needed expertise beyond her own. This photograph held secrets that demanded investigation. Dr. Marcus Webb arrived at the museum the next morning, his usual energetic demeanor subdued after Emma had sent him the photographs overnight. They met in the conservation lab, where Emma had the image displayed across a large monitor, the magnified section showing the wrist scar clearly visible. Marcus leaned close, studying the detail silently for nearly a minute before speaking. "Charleston, 1888. Do we have any provenance beyond the estate donation?" Emma spread out the acquisition paperwork. The Ashford family. They'd been in Charleston since before the Revolution. The estate included extensive documentation, land deeds, business records, personal correspondence. I haven't gone through most of it yet. I only noticed this photograph yesterday. Marcus nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving the image. That scar is definitely from shackles or manacles. See the uniform width, the way it circles completely? That's consistent with iron restraints. Probably worn over an extended period during childhood or adolescence when the bones were still growing. But this is 1888, Emma said, 23 years after abolition. Legally, yes, but you know the reality was far more complex. Marcus pulled up a chair, settling in for what Emma recognized as one of his impromptu history lectures. Always thorough, always illuminating. After the Civil War, many formerly enslaved people remained on the same plantations and in the same households where they had been held in bondage, sometimes by choice because they had nowhere else to go, no resources, no alternatives, sometimes because of debt peonage, sharecropping arrangements, or outright coercion. He gestured to the photograph. Look at this setting. This is an upper-class Charleston home, probably in the historic district. The furnishings, the wallpaper, the quality of light from those windows, this is wealth. Old wealth, most likely. Emma saw what he meant. Every detail of the room visible in the photograph spoke of privilege and status. The carved wooden furniture, the elaborate curtains, the decorative objects barely visible on a side table. Now look at these two women, Marcus continued. Similar ages, dressed in comparable quality clothing, sitting together in what appears to be companionable proximity. This isn't a typical employer-servant photograph of the era. Those would show clear spatial and postural hierarchy. This is something else. What are you thinking? Emma asked. Marcus zoomed in on both faces, examining them carefully. I'm thinking we need to find out who these women were and how they were related. Because they were related somehow. I'd stake my reputation on it. The question is whether that relationship was chosen or imposed, loving or exploitative, or most likely, some complicated mixture of both. Emma spent the next 3 days systematically working through the Ashford estate papers, while Marcus searched historical databases and census records. The family's documentation was extensive but chaotic. Generations of letters, receipts, legal documents, and personal papers stored in no particular order. She found plantation records from the 1850s, listing enslaved people by first name only, their ages, skills, and monetary values recorded with the same clinical detachment used for livestock. The lists made her stomach turn. Lucy, age 24, house servant, $800. James, age 19, blacksmith, $200. Sarah, age 16, seamstress, $700. Then she found a leather-bound journal dated 1863-1865, kept by someone named Eleanor Ashford. The handwriting was elegant. The entries initially focused on mundane domestic matters and social calls. But as Emma read chronologically, the tone shifted dramatically with entries from 1864. June 12, 1864. Father has taken ill again. Dr. Morrison says the consumption worsens. He speaks of matters he wishes settled before, but I cannot bear to write it. He has confessed something to me that I scarcely know how to comprehend or accept. Emma's pulse quickened. She read on. June 15th, 1864. I have met her. Father insisted, though Mother would not come downstairs. Her name is Clara. She is a year younger than I, born in this very house to one of our... I cannot write the word. Father says she is my sister, half-sister. He says he has provided for her care, that certain arrangements must continue after his death. Mother will not speak of it. Emma sat back, her mind racing. She photographed the pages and continued reading. July 3rd, 1864. Clara remains in the house. We take meals separately, live in different wings, but I find myself seeking her out. She is intelligent, well-spoken. Father has seen to her education, it seems, in ways that were hidden from Mother and me. There is a strangeness in speaking to someone who shares my blood but has lived such a different life under this same roof. Emma grabbed her phone and called Marcus immediately. I found something. The Ashford family. There were 2 daughters. Eleanor, the legitimate white daughter, and Clara, the mixed-race daughter born to an enslaved woman. They lived in the same house. Marcus's response was immediate. Get me everything you can find about both of them. Birth records, death records, any photographs, any mention in family correspondence. This is the connection. Marcus arrived with census records and city directory listings spread across his laptop. I found them both. Eleanor Ashford appears in the 1870 census as daughter of Robert and Margaret Ashford, age 26, living in the family home on Meeting Street. And here, in the same household, Clara Ashford, listed as domestic servant, age 25, race marked as mulatto in the census terminology of the time. Emma pulled up more journal entries from Eleanor's diaries, these from 1865. April 20th, 1865. The war is ended. Father died 3 months ago, and now this news. Everything has changed, yet nothing has changed. Clara is legally free now, but where would she go? This house is the only home she has known. Mother insists she remain as paid household help. The distinction seems meaningless to me. She's still here, still serving, still trapped by circumstances beyond her choosing. The entries painted a complex picture. Eleanor seemed genuinely conflicted about her half-sister's situation, aware of the injustice, yet unable or unwilling to fundamentally change the arrangement. Clara appeared in the margins of Eleanor's writing, teaching Eleanor to sew fine stitches, nursing her through an illness, sitting with her during their mother's final days in 1872. May 14th, 1872. Mother is buried. Clara and I are alone now in this house, two sisters divided by everything society deems important. We maintain the fiction that she is my employee, but in truth, we are simply two women living together, bound by blood and circumstance. I pay her wages, yes, but they are wages she cannot easily refuse. Wages that keep her here serving me as she once served under bondage. Emma found financial records showing regular payments to Clara Ashford beginning in 1866, modest wages for domestic work. But she also found something else, a deed from 1880 transferring ownership of a small property on the outskirts of Charleston from Eleanor to Clara. The transaction was recorded legally, but included a handwritten note, given freely to my sister that she might have security independent of my household. Marcus examined the deed carefully. This is unusual. White women transferring property to black women in 1880s Charleston? That would have raised eyebrows. The fact that she's identified as my sister in the note is extraordinary, acknowledging that relationship in legal documentation. So Eleanor was trying to help Clara? Emma asked. Maybe, or maybe trying to assuage her own guilt, or both. Marcus pulled up another document. Look at this. Clara is listed in the 1880 census as still living at the Ashford residence, even though she owned property elsewhere. She stayed, even when she had the legal right and financial means to leave. Emma found the answer in a letter dated March 1888, tucked into Eleanor's correspondence file. It was addressed to a photographer named William Barnett, whose studio had been located on King Street in Charleston. Mr. Barnett, I wish to commission a portrait photograph to be taken at my residence. The subjects will be myself and my sister, Clara. I understand this may be an unusual request given the current social climate, but I am willing to pay double your standard rate for your discretion and professionalism. The photograph is for private family purposes and will not be publicly displayed. Please advise your availability. Eleanor Ashford. Marcus read the letter over Emma's shoulder. She wanted documentation of their relationship, something private, just for them. Emma found Barnett's reply, dated a week later. Miss Ashford, I am honored by your request and require no additional payment beyond my standard portrait fee. I have known your family for many years and understand the delicate nature of this commission. I am available Tuesday, March 27th at 2 o'clock. I will bring my equipment to your residence and ensure complete privacy during the session. William Barnett. The date matched. March 27th, 1888. The notation on the photograph's original mounting, barely visible in the scan. Emma pulled up Eleanor's journal entries from that period. March 27th, 1888. Today we sat for a portrait, Clara and I, together as we have lived these past 24 years since Mother's death. I wanted something to acknowledge what we are to each other, even if the world can never know. Clara was hesitant at first, concerned about the propriety, but I insisted. We are sisters. Whatever else divides us, that truth remains. March 28th, 1888. Mr. Barnett brought the wet plate proof today. Clara looked at it for a long time without speaking. We look like equals in this, she finally said. I told her we should be equals, that the accident of birth and circumstance that made our lives so different is an injustice I have never known how to remedy. She touched my hand and said, You have done what you could, Eleanor. That is more than most would do. But is it enough? Can it ever be enough? Emma felt tears prickling her eyes. This wasn't a simple story of exploitation or a simple story of sisterly love. It was both, neither. Something far more complicated. Marcus pointed to the screen. The scar. Did Eleanor know about it? Did she understand what it meant? Emma searched through more entries and found it. January 1866. I saw Clara's wrists today when she reached for something high on a shelf. The scars there, I knew what they were, though I'd never seen them clearly before. Evidence of what was done to her before the war ended, before freedom came. I wanted to ask, wanted to understand, but the words would not come. How does one ask one's sister about the chains she wore? Emma contacted Dr. Patricia Coleman, a specialist in the material culture of slavery at the University of South Carolina. Dr. Coleman arrived the following week. bringing with her extensive documentation of restraint devices used in the antebellum and Civil War periods. Shackles and manacles left very specific scarring patterns, Dr. Coleman explained, examining the magnified image of Clara's wrist. The circular formation, the uniform width, the slight indentation of tissue, these are consistent with iron manacles, likely worn during adolescence. The scar tissue suggests they were worn over an extended period.